When you're learning how to draw, it's so important, I think, to see a good drawing at a point when it's halfway done. Doing a portrait like this in only about 12 minutes is not magic. It's a process that you can practice. So let's go through it together. Here you can see, very lightly, I began with 2 perpendicular lines. That's the tilt of the head and the transverse position of the eyes. And then I realized I should probably flip the camera on. I'm not thinking about features like eyes and noses right now. I'm just squinting at the subject to blur the details, like this. And I'm making the dumbest decision possible about what's black and what's gray. This is what I'm trying to see. Black, dark, light. Dark tone, mid-tone, light tone. Drawing the face is hard, so ignore that. Drawing these shapes is much easier, right? So draw this mess, and we'll find the face in it later. Here's the top of the forehead, this vertical curtain of hair that frames the face, the diagonal of the veil. And here come the eyes. And again, I'm seeing the entire shape of the shadow beneath the brow and above the cheek as one smear of gray. And this is about as much as you need in terms of a scaffolding to begin rendering. So let's go. Grind in the black. Don't be precious. Just jam it in there. We'll smooth it over later. All you're doing is just giving yourself shapes to color in, like a coloring book, you see. And actually, come to think of it, coloring books are more complicated than this. We only get one color, so that's nice. And here comes that darker mid-tone. I'm actually using 3 pencils to do this. You could do the whole thing with 1 pencil if you want, but sometimes I find that letting the softness of the lead do a bit of the work for me can help take away some of the burden of making decisions. It's to taste. Alright, now it's about here that the drawing is looking a bit like it belongs in the trash can. And I might have crumpled it up under different circumstances. Perhaps you would too. And that's understandable. When you look through old books of old drawings and renderings from the Gilded Age, as I often do, you see mostly finished products. You see these amazing, intimidating pieces of art that make it feel like perhaps I should quit my job and stop taking clients, stop teaching, apologize to everyone, issue refunds, and just put the fries in the bag. But all these drawings were done according to a procedure. They weren't just conjured up out of someone's hand fully formed. It can be easy to forget that if all you look at is the finished product, and that's fine for most people who just enjoy seeing a fine drawing. But if your interest is in doing a fine drawing, the final product rather quickly becomes a frustrating thing, right? Yeah, I know you can draw. Of course you can. That's why you've got the book. Show me how you did it, not just what you've done. How was this actually made? So I think it's valuable to see the process like this and to watch my hands go through it. How do we manage to save this sketch? The biggest reason why this looks a little questionable at this stage is that the contrast is just way too high. If you look at the subject all blurred again on the left, you'll see we should hardly be able to make out the eyes, for example. It's really more or less one tone. There's barely any variance. The way I save this is by settling these shapes down, fussing with them and babysitting them for a few minutes until they behave. And we feel comfortable committing to that process now because the big moves have already been worked out. Don't draw lines, draw shapes. Don't draw edges. Put shapes of values next to one another and the edge appears incidentally. Don't obsess over details and features. Get these big, simple shapes and values in the correct place, and your drawing will read pretty well, long before you consider it finished. Use your kneaded eraser not to remove mistakes, but to lift graphite up off the page and draw brighter values, like this. Here I'm pressing the lower half of the face into more shadow. The light is very soft, and it's coming from above and to the right. Overall, we want the forehead and the brow and the nose to be catching the most light, as those planes on the face are facing the sun directly. Beneath, the downward-facing planes are all cast in darkness. It's about here that I decide that washing out the sky in gray will help the highlights on the face step forward, compositionally, so let's do that. This is a hard lead here, 2H. Let's add a bit of life to the veil. We'll get rid of these old construction lines. Now, step back, and let's see what's left to do. I'm pretty happy with the form and lighting at this point, and so what I usually will reach for is that hard 2H lead again, and just start washing over things in big, soft swaths to smooth out these tones. We've been pretty loose up until this point while we're finding things, but now that it's all pretty well found, we should blend and smooth these hard planes and cells of tone into softer forms. And if you squint now, you'll see the eyes get lost in the shadows. And that's just what we want. They're in there. You can see her looking at you, but out of the shadows. That's nice. I'm taking that 2B pencil here again because it was within reach, and smoothing out the sable mass of her hair. Now I've chopped the paper down a bit, more to the intended size, and from here on out we're just adding a bit more depth to the sky with a subtle gradient and continuing to smooth out the lighting. It's done. It's basically done. And all in all, this drawing took only 12 minutes. If you've got 12 minutes to spare, give it a shot. The point isn't getting it right the first time. The point is doing another one, and another one, and another one, and eventually you'll get pretty good at it. Which is one of the nice things about old skills like this. You become what you put your time into. So pick something that interests you, and away you go.